Checking sound level in 1, 2, 3. Okay, good morning, everyone. Hello, and welcome to my stream. Or rather, I should say, welcome to one of my topic discussions. So, for today's discussion, it's a very sensitive one. And I don't say that lightly, of course. It's probably about time I made a video around this subject, even though I know it's one of the trickier ones to bring up because there's a lot of things going on with it and all that. But regardless, I feel it's pretty necessary that we talk about it since it is a feature that most Final Fantasy XIV players look forward to, and um, it's a feature that players adore like very much. Too much, in fact, that can lead to some very nastiness and like bitter feelings. So I'm gonna do my best here to try and not rile up any people or ruffle any feathers, I guess you could say. But those of you who are regulars of my channel, you kind of know that I don't beat around the bush and I usually get straight to the point and don't like mince words, so to speak. I'm pretty honest when I speak to you about these things. So I'm not gonna like hold back any opinions or like critiques. I'm just gonna go at it like how I view it and see this situation with this feature here. So, firstly, let's talk. We'll go from steps here in this topic. So, we'll go from acquisition, like how you obtain it, to what you can do with it. This is going to, of course, include limitations and like the sizes and the amount. And then we're going to talk about, after that, um, alternatives and solutions, like ways that players have kind of discussed on the matter on how to sort of like make this suitable for everyone without it being taxing on others or like being exclusive to particular um, people. So let's go in with sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister for me. Acquisition, how it's acquired. So in order to acquire housing in Final Fantasy XIV, you must first be part of a grand company, which is part of the main story quest or main scenario, as some will call it, or MSQ for short. Um, you get the Grand Company very early on in like your level 20 sections of the story. And some people boost their characters anyway, so they'll usually be able to breeze through most of the story up to that point. Um, if not, then if you're the type who likes authenticity, you like having the real experience, like how the game was meant to be played, then um, you just need to know that you need to be level 20 and you need to be past a certain part in the main story quest, which is called The Company You Keep, is the quest name. And you will receive this quest from a Grand Company officer in the uh, it's the rising something sands. Sorry, you guys, it's been a while since I've played on any new characters, but I believe it's the Waking Sands. Sorry, I had to remember the meme there for a second. That's what reminded me. Pray return to the Waking Sands. But yeah, the Waking Sands, and your quest quiver will be either a Maelstrom, Twin Adder, or Immortal Flame officer, recruitment officer. And once you choose like which company you want, whether that's the piratey Maelstrom, like the naval force, or the rangers and like mages of the shroud, kind of group, or even the sell swords and like kind of mercenary group, the Immortal Flames, then it's really up to personal preference, but there are a little bit of a few exclus- exclusivities. Sorry, I have a real hard time with words this morning, but there are some exclusive items locked behind certain companies, but you can switch companies anytime you want. Just you won't be able to access those exclusive items after you've switched. So uh, just choose whatever like fits your character or whatever you think fits yourself, and go ahead and go with that. Um, the objective is to at least have a company. It doesn't matter which one, in order to get there to unlocking housing. So then after you've had the company unlocked, then you can start ranking yourself up in the company, which can be done in various ways. Um, the first way is to do the Grand Company missions that you're assigned. Usually, what they'll have you do is they'll have you do like a hunt log, and then sometimes they'll have you like clear a dungeon, and then you can rank up through that. You will need currency. They're called Grand Company Seals. You can obtain these either by doing like Grand Company turn-ins, which unfortunately you can't unlock that feature as a Disciple of War or Disciple of Magic until a later rank. But if not you're able to do those right away, then you can do fates, which will give you currency, and that's fates are basically open world events that happen periodically on a loop and in different areas of the map. And trust me, you'll see those a lot, so they're hard to miss. They're not too hard to miss. And then there's a leave quest sort of thing. If you don't know what that is, there's an NPC usually in multiple spots throughout the game's world. They will usually have like officer assigned to their name, or like lieutenant or something. You just need to go talk to them, and they'll have like a quest symbol above their head, like a silvery plate looking quest thing. You'll click on that, and then they'll give you grand company leaves, and those will give you some seals and experience points if you're leveling a job and whatnot. So if you do that, then you'll get enough seals to rank yourself up, and then once you get those Grand Company turn-ins unlocked, it'll be even easier to um, rank up, because then all you have to do is turn in like your old unwanted gear that's usually from dungeons. Like they're usually a green color in the icons that show up in the item description box that pops up on gear. They'll be green. You can turn that in. Sometimes you can even turn in the blue ones. Um, but or like I guess purple. Sometimes they're purple. You can just like turn all the old stuff in, and then they'll give you seals, Grand Company seals, I should say. And then from there, once you've gotten up to the rank of first lieutenant or lieutenant, however you wish to pronounce that word, then you'll be able to accept another quest in the worlds, the open worlds, which I believe is called a home for me or like something like that. It's usually pretty easy to find these quests. They'll have like a blue marker with a plus sign on them. So there's one in Western Thanalan, there's one in Lower Lanosia, and there's one in the Central Shroud. So you'll find them, the quest givers there. Quest symbol with the plus symbol. I'm sorry, I can't remember the NPCs' names, but um, they're not too hard to miss. You'll find them easily. And then once you've accepted that quest, it'll take you to one of three housing districts. Um, there's called the Mists for, um, Lanosia, which is like a beach sort of area. Then there's the Goblet, which is like in the desert, Thanalan area. And it's kind of like a old fashioned like sort of uh, town looking area. And then there's the Lavender Beds, which is just like you know forest looking area. So those are the three you get to start with, but um, if you decide to purchase like additional expansions or whatever, you'll get another housing district which is known as Shirogane, and this will be unlocked through an NPC in Kugane, which is a city you'll get to in the main story quest. So, main story quest is very important for this, so chug along at it, or, if story's not that important to you, I guess there's a skip option, but in my opinion, why skip? Because this is a very heavy story oriented game to begin with, so you're really uh, cutting your time short, so to speak. So it's not really something I personally would recommend, but maybe you're someone who doesn't care, and that's your choice. But if that's your choice, then go ahead and skip. But realistically, housing's not going to take up all of your time in game. It might give you like some rush of dopamine when you first have it, but it'll slowly wear off after you've realized there's nothing else to do. So just kind of take the game at your own pace, is what I would say. But anyway, you'll have Kugane, and then it will unlock the housing area Shirogane. And again, you still have to be in a grand company, and you still have to, you know, do the quest line to unlock the housing area and be the rank of first lieutenant in your grand company. So You've got those in mind, and that's how you'll unlock the housing areas. Now comes for um, acquisition of housing. So this is kind of like changed drastically like over time. So we're gonna kind of like go on a journey here back in time just a little bit. And sorry, I've gotta like move my keys a little bit so I don't get kicked from my instance here, my instance island, which we're gonna talk about that in this video as well, as it does sort of relate to housing in a manner, though not entirely, but we'll get to that. But let's go back in time, shall we? Back to those good old times of when this game was a fresh new leaf cut off from a dying, aging cloth. We just cut off all the bad flack and all the unnecessary elements, and then we bud new ones, and they've grown into land. Land which we can purchase and use for our own means and to live on said land. Now, our gracious and loving developers decided that housing should first serve groups. So they made what's called the ward system, in which they're think of like districts. So like in real life, how there's neighborhood districts, and each district will have a set number of houses available, or like plots of land open. So that was what they went with in mind in the very beginning, is to have districts, and each district would hold a limited amount of houses, and they would come in only two sizes. So a lot of people don't know this, but very early on there were only two sizes of houses when they first implemented the housing to this game. There was only large, which is mansion, and then there was medium, which is house size. So they had those two, and basically they were set apart from each other in different spots across this expanse of land. And they would have in total, I believe, at least 10 districts open, like at the beginning. It could have been less because I have my memory's a little bit fuzzy, because I didn't start like a Realm Reborn. I started Final Fantasy XIV back in 1.0 days, but I didn't start a Realm Reborn until it was in like patch 2.11, I think. So like it's very like Realm Reborn's very first patch basically is when I came into Realm Reborn, but essentially um, before that, housing was just like Exactly as I said, it was limited amount of districts and um, only two sizes and limited amount of houses per district. And the idea was to make it so that groups could share these houses together and kind of form like communities and like I guess have a neighborhood feeling, I suppose, is what what the idea essentially was at first. Sorry about that. Had to clear my throat up a bit before continuing on, but anyway, let's move on. So, really, I mean, housing was so scarce back in early Realm Reborn. Only, and I mean, it was pretty expensive too. Like, only people with collectively a high amount of gil, the in-game currency, could actually afford these mansions or these house type um, houses. And people found ways to get around that, like, you know, they would kind of share like gil and like collectively buy as a group, and their combined gil together would make it so that they could afford the mansion or the house. Or I know some people would cheat, which is against the terms of service, but there was people who did cheat, yes, by using RMT activities, which is short for real money trading, and that's frowned upon by the developers, so don't do it. Don't risk it, because your account will be banned and possibly deleted if the devs are not feeling nice about it. But so many people wanted to have bragging rights of the house, so they, whether through cheating or through group effort, they all bought up all the houses in all the districts. So there were no more houses left. And so this made newer groups of people, or new people coming to the game, like pretty upset. They're like, "Hey, what is up with that? Why can't I have a nice fancy place to live in, but they can?" So they took to the forums, and they're like, "Hey, I don't like that this is so exclusive. I want to be included too." So what the devs tried to do is they added these little rooms in the free companies housing, and these little rooms served as either like an office, or you could make it like a bedroom. And you could just have your own little space, basically. And so people were like, huh, okay, well, I suppose that's nice, but there's also a fee tied in. They also tied a fee into this, which I I don't understand why. I mean, sure, Gil Sync, I guess, but like crafting and gathering is already time and Gil Sync investment already, so I really don't know what they were going with this. They could have just made it so that rather than making you have to pay for the room, that you were automatically allowed to build a room just by being a part of the free company, you know? Like, it could be a feature they could have included, but when ranking up free companies, because free companies have ranks themselves, so they could have made it a feature, a rank up feature in a free company where a certain rank, like let's say like rank 5 or something or whatever, would allow you to unlock free company rooms so that everyone can have like their own room and they can decorate it however they want. And like there wouldn't be a limit on these rooms. So like when I think they go by sets of 10 or 15 or whatever or 20. I can't really remember because I haven't been in a free company for a long while now. But essentially, you know, sorry, again, just making sure I don't lose this instance. But they could have made it so that it was much easier to get the free company rooms just by ranking up, and then everyone could have a room who joins the free company or they're a part of the free company already. But then there's another overshot site they kind of made with this feature, and that's that basically, if for whatever reason you have conflict of interest, that's putting it lightly. If you have a conflict of interest with someone who's like in leadership of the free company or the leader of the free company, they can kick you out. And that basically means that you lose your room and everything that was in it. And people didn't take that lightly either, so they got mad again and said, this is not a fair and just way to do this. Like, it's a gated feature. Like, the people were so mad about it. But then the developers decided, okay, well, that was our bad, so we'll make it up to you. And they decided to add personal houses at a later date. So they added these smaller houses and made it so that anyone could who met the requirements, which again we've already talked about. So the ground company and the quest related requirement, then they could purchase this small house. And so people did do that, and um, they added more districts as well to sort of usher in these new smalls, and they made this adjustments to the existing district so the smalls could be there as well. And the current then player base was pretty, I guess, content for a moment. And but it's a very short moment because again, this feature was still a bit exclusive. Like it's not just exclusive, but like limited in supply as well. So there really wasn't winning here for the developers, sadly, as people were still saying it's not enough. Square Enix, I need more. We need more. They're like, oh my gosh, we thought we fixed it, and they're still mad at us. So I had another idea, okay, which is unlock the medium house and the large houses so that people could buy it for themselves. And they added even more wards and districts. And then they added sub wards, which are tied to like the normal wards. And they figured that would be enough. And to be fair, it was at the time. And this was Heaven's Ward, their first expansion that they started doing all this sub ward stuff and everything, and more wards. And like I said, at the time it was enough. But as trends change and people get mad at certain other MMO games, which we will not name, and they just decided to try for Final Fantasy XIV. And they fell in love with it, of course. They loved the story, they loved the music, they loved their characters, just everything. They found reasons to love the game. And so they started to spread the message to all their friends and family. Be like, hey, come check out this new shiny toy I found. It's pretty rad. And more people came flocking in. And unfortunately, that meant more people wanted the housing, wanted in on the housing system too. So they jumped in on the housing system. And this housing system, by the way, it was first come, first serve. So whoever was the quickest or the earliest caught the worm, basically. So the early bird catches the worm. And people ran out of those servers ran out of space and ran out of houses again. So you see how this has kind of evolved. It's a really very weird, repetitive, and vicious cycle of devs trying to find creative solutions and sort of band-aid the problem, but each band-aid creates a different problem, and scarcity still exists in the process of them trying to solve the problems. And so, because of the scarcity, they, rather than go the way that one would expect that they would go in the direction of, they kind of doubled down a bit more on current badly implemented system. Oh, boy. So their bright idea to try next was auto demolition timer. So basically, if you didn't maintain your subscription for a set period of time, well, guess what? Guess your house bye-bye goes back in the market, and then other players can hop on and grab it if they so choose to. And again, this is first come, first serve. Early bird catches the worm type housing, so it's pretty brutal. Like, as soon as the house came up, it was like all out war, basically. Many people would show up, they would start like jumping on the plot, they would curse each other and like make threats and all that stuff that people who don't get their way w- typically will feel and start talking like. So I mean, I get a kick out of the show, but I do understand where their frustration still comes from. But it just wasn't helping the problem, and so more complaints for the devs. And I can imagine by now they're pulling teeth and pulling hair out because they're like, why does this not work? Why is this thing broken? What can we do? What's the solution? Someone, please God, tell me, what must I do? And they decided like, okay, well, we're not going to let people just grab the houses anymore. So they made it so that after a house is sent back on the market, that there would be a timer put on the house. So people wouldn't be able to just swoop in and grab it, but they'd have to wait for the timer to essentially tick down and then be gone in order to like claim the house. And then, oh my gosh, oh, it was a circus. Made a circus, peanut gallery, you could say even. Because then you'd have multiple people crowding around these signs and being like vultures, essentially waiting to pounce upon their prey, just swirling around in the circles of the sky, just waiting to get a piece of that meat. And that's really how it was. And sometimes they try to consume each other while they were at it. They failed. And people would get even more mad. And on top of that, of course, developers thought maybe it would be a nice idea if people could relocate to a different house so that then the houses would just be in a perpetual circle. It was not a good idea, though, either, because then people would purposely be trolls and they would take some of houses that had people waiting on it. And that made people really mad. So more complaints compiled again. Now, in between this, they tried to add different type of housing. So they tried apartments. So they built these apartment-like complexes in the housing wards and subwards, and basically made it so that if you wanted to have your own space to reside in, you could, but it's very limited in what you can do, and you have no outside, like no balcony, no roof, just just a small cube. And like, I get it, from a Japanese perspective, they're kind of used to that lifestyle, okay? Like they really are. They're used to being like in a minimalist sort of lifestyle. And I think that's where uh, the idea of these apartments came from, is because they're like, hey, well, our average demographic is like college level students and like fresh out of high school students, so or like maybe they are like high school students. So they're like, you know what? Most of them usually live in small apartments, so sure they'll probably be okay with that. Now, why that may have worked on the Japanese side, like they might be okay with that, but the rest of the world was not. They wanted to not be excluded from having the chocobo dying and training system, which is only limited to housing, or the gardening system, which was also limited only outdoor housing, and mailing system, which was inconvenient because you had to go to run into like the city state every time. So they had to make those features readily available to apartments in a later patch after complaints piled up again. Oh boy. And then we kind of reach island sanctuary a little bit here. Like, people wanted access to be able to, you know, essentially like use housing. And again, don't mind me, just making sure that I move periodically so this instance does not kick me out while I'm trying to do this video. But people wanted the idea of having like a communal garden within like the housing wards themselves, like an area where they could plant plants and grow stuff to sell and like get stuff. But they also wanted this like garden communal thing to have like sort of a farm like look and feel. So they wanted to have like a petting zoo or something where they could maybe put like their minions or something. So um this idea was sent over to the developers, but I feel like this was mistranslated. Poorly mistranslated. 'Cause, oh boy, did they miss the message and the mark. Oh man. And I don't know how that happened either. Like, maybe they just didn't ask, like, the localization director. His name's Mr. Michael Koji Christopher Fox, or, as they call him, Koji for short. They could have, like, asked him, I feel like, to explain what, this feedback means or something. And he probably would have been able to explain it in a better detail, I feel like. Like, it really feels like they saw the feedback and then, like, they either um, gave it to, like, an intern, and the intern's like, oh, farm. Okay, they want, like, farmland and crops. Okay, garden crop. Okay, well, I'll I'll write that down and give it to who's in charge. And that's how we got this island sanctuary here that I'm in. Essentially, like, they gave it to the wrong hands when I feel like if they had given it to Mr. Koji, he probably would have been like, "Oh, okay, they want like a like a greenhouse. They want like a greenhouse, like area where you plant plants in. You go there with other people. You do garden, botanical and garden stuff. I feel like he probably would have made the message a lot more clear, and I scratch my head every time. Like, why did they not think to do this? Like, come on. Like, I mean, sure, maybe it would have been a little bit of a load on for Mr. Koji because he is, like I said, localization director, so he's probably got a lot of stuff to do, but I'm sure he can make time for players' feedback. Like, if it would help make the game better, I'm sure, like, he wouldn't mind. But another thing with, the Japanese mindset and their, like, cultures that, like, they, they don't like really, um, confrontation, and they don't like inconveniencing people or inconveniencing others. I know it sounds weird, okay, and it sounds like something very different from what we might be used to in like other territories, but that's just the way they are in Japan. Is they're not very confrontational, and they don't like to like um inconvenience someone else. When I'm positive, okay, that Mr. Koji Fox, he probably would be more than happy to help them out and be like, yeah, okay, so this means like that. It's this, it's like he would explain it to him like how it works and like what it does. They'd be like, "Ah, so desu ne, so desu ne, so desu ne." Or like, you know, they'd be like, "Oh, okay." Like, I feel like if they had better translators for the job instead of interns, like, this would go so much better. Like, I feel like that's why a lot of our feedback feels like it's ignored from like other territories is because like I feel like the translation is over to the developers is like really bad. Like they don't provide like enough like nitty gritty and tight down details like of what this is, what it means, what it needs to happen. I feel like they they're not descriptive enough. Like that's what it really feels like is like they're not descriptive enough when they provide translations on these things. And maybe they need to really start doing so because it feels like they just like see one phrase or one word and they latch on to just that and they're like, okay, I'm going to send it, submit it, done, bye. And then when it gets to the developers' hands and they have their meetings, Yoshida has his meetings, and he's probably asking, so feedback, give it. What did you hear? What do you know? What does that? What's look like? He's spacing out whenever he gets like something or a question that he doesn't understand, but he thinks about it for a minute. Like he'll do that. He'll do that like thinking emoji. He'll be like, okay, or like it'll get translated to him, but he'll think it's something else because, like I said, the translations aren't descriptive enough. They're like either intentionally vague or they're just like not detailed enough. So that's one of the problems of why like this housing system I feel like is not super great. It's because probably they're not getting the type of feedback that they really need to have in order to make this work. And so that's why like they've tried different ideas. Some of them they've tried from players' ideas and well, it just backfired. Like this current idea for which we're currently stuck with now. Players started tossing around this idea to them that like, you know what, I don't like this first come first serve business. I don't like these timer business. This is terrible and it causes me to have a stroke or a migraine over. Literally the people were just like saying everything they possibly can just to insult this system, and some people took it too far and insulted the developers, which you should never condone that type of behavior. Like, even if you're having a bad day or you're having a bad time, like, just don't take it out on people, you know? Like, chill, relax, take a deep breath if you have to, count backwards from 10, breathe in and out, go take a walk outside, touch some grass. Like, I know people hate that when people say that, touch grass, but literally just go go outside or do something else and try to recompose yourself and then come back and think rationally. you know like these developers are just people like you and me. So, and yes, I know it's frustrating, like, because it doesn't feel like they care, but it's probably the opposite because, like I've just explained, Japanese culture can be very different from what we are used to, and they have very different ways of handling things and doing things. And probably our feedback is not being appropriated in the way that it should be, and their translator is basically like nitpicking and latching on to only like one thing and ignoring the rest, which is not good. Like, it really shouldn't be doing that. Like that, like I said, that's like intern level mistake there. Like, I honestly think they need to hire, like specifically hire a professional translator um, of like player feedback for each of the different regions. So the regions that they host um, for Final Fantasy XIV is they host Europe, which includes like France, Germany, um, like Switzerland, um, Italy, basically like you know all the basic like friendly, I guess, friendly and allied, I guess you could say, like part of the United Nations countries. Basically, they host for EU, and then hire another translator for, the Western territory, which is mostly English, or like predominantly English. Like United States, Canada, um, they're mostly predominantly English speaking, but there's like no support for, Latin America or South America, you could say. Unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe there's a trade issue in Latin America or South America, and like Mexico. Maybe there's like trade issues for the reason why um like Square Enix doesn't have servers there, or like there's some like crazy like laws. Like it could be any like trade or law issue that makes it that reason why uh 14's not allowed there, which is kind of sad because we do have like some players like from those regions that play this game. Like I don't know, I guess they pirate the game, which is illegal probably for them, but they still do it in secret, I guess. And they play on, they hop on to like the North American servers, which is probably hell on their ping and systems, I imagine. So, but they should hire translators even still for like West territories, and they have like Southeast Asia, so they should have a translator for that too. They should have a professional translator for like Korea because they have Korean servers. And then China, they have definitely have China servers, so they should definitely like have professional uh, translator for that too. Or basically, I guess they should just hire a whole team, like a whole professional team of translators, is what they should do, and like tell these translators like not to be picky, but to like describe in details as much as they possibly can so that it will make sense, because we ain't getting very far how we are currently. And it really shows with how bad this housing system is. And like again, this newest mess that we found ourselves in, basically people had the idea that if they put a lottery system in, well, then that makes it fair for everyone because now it's RNG. Yeah, everybody loves RNG, don't we? It's like we don't get enough of it already in our content, and they even shove the classic old loot box in our faces now with some types of content in this game. Oh, it's joy! That's so fun, we really love that. Oh, joy! Oh, oh! I didn't win. You're telling me I didn't win? Oh no! Now I have to wait again in a cycle. Oh, geez. Well, how long is a cycle? Oh, a whole week. Well, I guess I'll go jump off a cliff then. I'll go die then. That's literally how people feel about this new band-aid fix. Like this was just not a good idea. They should never have entertained the notion, because it's already prevalent enough, and you're just beating a dead horse. You're not like contributing to fixing the problem. Which the biggest problem, excuse me, but the biggest problem is that, you know, people don't have a house. They want a house. They don't want apartments. They don't want limited apartments. But anyway, we fell too far off track. Anyway, talked about acquisition, so let's go into features. What you can do with a house. So basically, with any of the types of housing that we have, you can set furnishings, which are basically like furniture items, which include light fixtures, wallpapers, walls themselves, chairs, beds, rugs, um, statues, fountains, um, trees, flower plots, gardens, chocobo stable for your bird, a mailbox, so when you buy things from the cash shop or you like pre-order stuff, then you'll get sent stuff through with the Moogle Mail system. And with free company houses, they get what's called a workshop, which you can use to build an airship and a submarine, which can then go out and get special materials and stuff so that you can do gardening stuff, or you can um, build like better submarines and better ships and then get even more stuff, which can help you make housing walls, for example, to customize the look of your house if you want to try something new. Or if, sorry, or if, like, I'm okay, I promise. I'm not dying. I am okay. I swear, I swear to the 12, I'm okay. But, like, you can also sell these, like, housing walls from the workshop to, or even like the airship and the submarine parts, you can sell them, like, on the market board. Like, if you say you want to um, fund more stuff for your free company, or you want to hold events for your guildies, your free company members, and you want to be able to do that stuff for them, or like someone who runs like a role playing venue or something like that, you need cash, so you would use the workshop then to make it so that you can sell these items and then make some hefty change so that you can do all this other stuff with the free company house. Then there's also, I already mentioned the free company rooms, which are not great in themselves, and If you get on the bad side of someone in the leadership, then your house or your room might as well go bye bye. So it's really not worth the risk to begin with. When it really, in reality, it shouldn't even cost you anything. It should be just tied to the free company ranks themselves. Why they didn't do that, I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm not the developer. So, and of course, with that, being kicked from a free company also means that you should be able to at least, either get your stuff back from the housing guy they made to hold lost items, or at least just refund all the gil back to the person. Have them get all their gil back because it's pretty messed up the way that the free company rooms are. They're like legitimately not worth it. Not unless like you're really close friends with the people in your free company. You guys know each other. You see each other, and like you're best buddies, like for life, basically. Because like if you're not, and like shit hits the fan, you're probably not gonna be hanging on to that room for much longer. So free company rooms are a terrible idea. They need to be patched out, or like patched into the free company rank system itself, where basically anyone can have a room for free, like no costs. Like they can just make a room. If they get kicked, then their stuff they can get it back from the dude, the housing enthusiast dude or whatever. Like they can just go to him and he'll say like, "Oh, you ran into some trouble. I noticed, so I took the measure to clear up your stuff for you. So here it is. It's yours." you know, or like even just use the Moogle mail system. Just like send this stuff in through the mail, or like, oh, I guess that would be hard to do, huh? Because this game's coding is pretty bad, like terrible bad, like awful, super bad, just a little bit bad, and yeah, get rid of it and fix it. 1.0 calamity. Like, just do something to refund the person at the very least. Because, like, you never know the reason why they were kicked. Like, it could have been, like, a petty reason, for example. Like, it could have been just, like, FC officer or leader just didn't like this person, like, for whatever reason. So they, like, I don't like them and kicked them. Like, could have been something like that. Or maybe, like, they unintentionally blurted something out loud and that like offended the leader or officer, and they're like, you know what, I don't think that's okay, that's not cool, you're out. You kicked him. you know like, really, in online atmospheres, like, people just don't have any like relaxation or like any chill. Like, they're very like thin skinned, good, touchy and sensitive about some of the simplest of things, and this game is like no exception either. Like, you know, people in this communities of this game tend to take things a little too seriously or too literal. sometimes. So they really need to do something about the free company rooms. Like, just period. Either get rid of them or make that not like tied to any sort of like monetization, you know, and make it so that there's a forgiveness system in the event that, someone does get kicked for some BS reason, or maybe they deserve the kick, but at the very least, it still like doesn't warrant them losing like an in-game feature and something that they took time into. So the free company rooms definitely need work. Now, also within free company housing, crafters can make stations. So these are special furnishings which allow you to essentially like live at the free company house. Like, it adds to the RPG element of this game where these stations act as like a place you can use to craft stuff, make stuff. So that's another thing that can be done with free company housing, the stations. You can also add these stations to private houses too. So